All I want is a little fun. Is that so much to ask? That's a no to fun, then?
Hello, Internet. I'm Omnivorous, and we're back again with another Universes Beyond Commander deck for y'all. This is a salty one, so I will not be responsible for you losing any friends at the pod, but it will be fun while they go. Astarion the Decadent is a 4/4 Death Touch lifelink vampire elf rogue for 4 and black-white that has, at the beginning of your end step, choose one. Feed. Target opponent loses life equal to the amount of life they lost this turn. Or friends. You gain life equal to the amount of life you gained this turn. Since we are going to be halving our opponent's life a lot, his feed ability is instant death. So if you have him on the board, you half an opponent's life, they lose the amount of life that they lost this turn, they die, and that is game for them. Alright, let's get right down to the meat of the deck and talk about some cards that are going to half our opponent's life. The deck has several cards that are going to half the opponent's life upon hitting them with the creature. The most notable is going to be the Unstoppable Slasher. This guy resurrects himself automatically when he dies. He has Death Touch, so he's not likely to be blocked. And yeah, he's just going to be one of the bigger threats that we're going to throw out on the board, halving opponent's life every time he's able to connect. Quietest Spike and Scythe Claw, both of these have the same ability Unstoppable Slasher has. When it connects, it's going to half the opponent's life. The Quietest Spike does give Death Touch, whereas the Scythe Claw gives +1/+1 and creates a body that it automatically equips to. They're both really nice. I like the Slasher the best because it does tend to recur, but these can be put on anything. We have 3 permanents that will essentially be damage doublers for us. The Bloodletter is easily the best, and it has, if an opponent would lose life during your turn, they lose twice that much life instead. Great thing about the Bloodletter is it's immediate. It is not an end of turn check. Warlock class works really hard to be almost as good as Wound Reflection, which has, at the beginning of each end step, each opponent loses life equal to the life they lost this turn. Warlock class is very similar, but it only triggers on your turn. We have several spells that will just straight up half people's life. With Revival then Revenge, you have the choice to use Revival as a way to get something back from the graveyard, or hit them with Revenge, doubling your life and halving theirs in the process. Scourge of the Skyclaves doesn't really see a lot of play because it's really clunky, but for our purposes, it will allow us to kick it to half everybody's life, and then it can come down as a decent sized body if people are pretty low. Fraying Omnipotence is going to half everybody's life. It's going to take out half of their creatures and make them discard half their hand. Some of the more interesting life halving spells are going to be Temporal Extortion and Skull Storm. Temporal Extortion is pretty straightforward. It lets you take an extra turn, but an opponent has the choice to counter it if they lose half their life. If they do that, they're basically signing their own death warrant, so most people are just going to give you the extra turn. But it could be that they're going to take the half, maybe. And then Skull Storm has the ability to make each opponent sacrifice a creature. It then storms off based off of the number of times you've cast your commander from the command zone. So if you've cast your commander once, they each have to sacrifice 2 creatures. If you've cast your commander twice, they each have to sacrifice 3 creatures, or they lose half their life each time they can't sacrifice a creature. And the last I want to really touch on is going to be Soren Markov. This one has the -3 that says target opponent's life total becomes 10. This is an automatic death sentence, just like any of the other cards that half your opponent's life. Alright, so we've got lots of cards that are going to half our opponent's life, but we also are going to make use of the fact that Astarion's going to generate us a lot of life in the process with his Friends ability.
The right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world.
To start us off, we're going to take a look at Blood Tribute. This is another half-life spell, but the thing about this one is it has the ability to be kicked if you tap a vampire. If you do, you gain life equal to the amount of life the opponent loses. Now, the cool thing about this is Astarion is a vampire, so you just tap him, you kick it, you get to half your opponent life, you gain life equal to the amount they've lost, and then Astarion kills them at the end of turn. Blood Chief Ascension will always be my favorite ascension. It's only 1 black, and it has, at the beginning of each end step, if an opponent lost 2 or more life this turn, you may put a quest counter on Blood Chief Ascension. Whenever a card is put in an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, if Blood Chief Ascension has 3 or more quest counters on it, you may have that player lose 2 life. If you do, you gain 2 life. Blood Chief Ascension is a great way to just pile up life gain really incidentally and easily, because it does count cards that go to the graveyard from anywhere. They still will trigger the Ascension. The deck does have a lot of other value-based drain cards like Great Merchant of Asphodel and Twilight Prophet. Who does not know our good pal Gary? Gary is going to just hit the board and drain each opponent equal to the amount of black devotion we have, which is the number of black pips on all of our stuff, and then we gain life equal to the amount of life that is drained. The Twilight Prophet is a pretty good card drawing engine. It's got a 2/4 flying body and ascend, which basically just tracks if we have 10 or more permanents on board. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have the City's Blessing, reveal the top card of your library and put it into your hand. Each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the card's mana value. So we're gonna do a pseudo draw and then gain some life and drain our opponents. Lastly, we got some big finishers for you in Exsanguinate, Debt to the Deathless, and Torment of Hailfire. Exsanguinate and Debt to the Deathless are very similar. They're gonna both drain our opponent for a massive amount and then gain us the life in return. The only difference is you pay 2 more mana for Debt to the Deathless and it does double the damage. Torment of Hailfire is a big time finisher though. It has repeat the following process X times. Each opponent loses 3 life unless that player sacrifices a non-land permanent or discards a card. So you pay a lot of mana into this thing and then it just decimates each opponent. So we're draining our opponents for a lot. We're gonna look at what we can do with some of that life gain. Helping us fuel all of that life gain is gonna be the Wind Crystal and Alhammaret's Archive. Both of these have the ability to double the amount of life gained whenever we gain life. Really ridiculous with Astarion because it can start to snowball. He already has lifelink, so he'll gain 4 life, which will actually be doubled to 8 life, and then at the end of turn, he has the ability to do Friends, which will gain him the amount of life he already gained this turn, which will be 8, which will actually be doubled again to 16, so in 1 turn, you can gain, just with Astarion, 24 life. Pretty nice. So with all that piled up life gain, we've got the ability to spend life for value. The best way to do that is going to be Bolas's Citadel and Necropotence. Bolas's Citadel lets you take a look at the top card of your library and then pay life equal to the mana cost of that card to cast it. Now, Necropotence is a little clunkier in comparison because it does give you the cards at the end of turn, so you can only really get a maximum of 7 unless you have some maximum hand size increase, but it is pretty nice to refill your hand whenever you need to. Now, you can always go all out on Necropotence and keep digging and digging and digging and discard what you don't need, and then the next turn, play your big finisher and kill everybody. Some creatures that really are gonna benefit from us having a lot of life gain are gonna be Elenda, Saint of Dusk, and Amalia Benavides Aguirre. Ah, man, that sucked. Anyway, Elenda, Saint of Dusk, has lifelink and hexproof from instants, and as long as your life total is greater than your starting life total, Elenda gets +1/+1 and has menace. Elenda gets an additional +5/+5 as long as your life total is 10 greater than your starting life total. Amalia has ward, pay 3 life. She also has whenever you gain life, Amalia explores, then destroy all other creatures if its power is exactly 20. And I would be remiss if I did not talk about the B board wipe for this deck. That's gonna be Toxic Deluge. All creatures get -X, but it also has an additional cost to cast this spell, pay X life. So for 3 mana, you can kill everything on the board. You just have to be willing to sacrifice some life. And of course, who could have seen this one coming? It's Aetherflux Reservoir. This has whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. Then it also has pay 50 life. Aetherflux Reservoir deals 50 damage to target creature or player. Aetherflux Reservoir isn't the only way we're gonna be straight nuking our opponents if halving their life wasn't enough. We have Axis of Mortality, which is one of my favorite cards for this deck because it is very sneaky. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may have 2 players exchange life totals. And there's several ways that you can manipulate this, from having yourself fall low and switch your life with somebody else who has a much higher life total, or switching to opponents, which will be relevant in various ways. But yeah, it's just all kinds of fun. We've also got some creatures that are gonna exchange life totals with Mr. Negative and the Tree of Perdition. Mr. Negative is a 5/5 Vigilance lifelink that has Dark Force Inversion. When Mr. Negative enters, you may exchange life totals with target opponent. If you lost life this way, draw that many cards. So in a pinch, he can get us some card advantage, which is really nice, but 9 times out of 10, let's be honest, we're going to be trying to swap life totals and make our opponent's life totals shrink. The Tree of Perdition has tap, exchange target opponent's life total with this creature's toughness. One of my favorite ways to switch people's life is Profane Transfusion. 2 target players exchange life totals. You create an XX colorless horror artifact creature token where X is the difference between those players' life total. So it's a one-off of Axis of Mortality, but it does give you a nice big body in the process. And it can be a death sentence to both of your opponents. Alright, and we're getting to the part of the deck that everybody saw coming, but I still need to talk about it because it is ridiculous and a great addition to our strategy. That is going to be the Sanguine Bond Exquisite Blood combo. We have a few cards that have the Sanguine Bond ability that says whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. The best of these is probably Enduring Tenacity, which will re-enter the battlefield after it's been killed as a enchantment, just like Sanguine Bond. Veto, Thorn of the Dusk Rose, has the same ability and then has the ability to grant lifelink to all of your creatures. The other half to the combo is Exquisite Blood. Exquisite Blood is an enchantment that has whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. So if you were paying attention to the Sanguine Bond, then yeah, you will realize that this is a loop. Sanguine Bond deals damage whenever you gain life, and then Exquisite Blood will gain life whenever that damage is dealt. And it just goes in a big old circle. And then you can just instant kill all of your opponents, really. The Bloodthirsty Conqueror is basically Exquisite Blood, except for it has a 5/5 flying death touch body. Alright, so we've gone through a lot of instant death, salty, combo-y goodness here in this Orzhov black-white deck. So we need lots of ways to protect ourselves against our opponents once they get pissed. Before we go heavy into our defense, we need to talk about 3 crucial stacks pieces in this deck. We've got Erebos, God of the Dead, Plague Drone, and Tainted Remedy. Erebos is great because he's indestructible, and he says your opponents can't gain life. That's the big one. He also has the ability to let you pay 2 and 2 life to draw a card so you can keep your engines going, which is always good. Erebos is a great guy all around. Love him. Tainted Remedy is a 3 mana enchantment that says if an opponent would gain life, that player loses that much life instead. So yeah, you know all that life swapping that we just talked about a little bit ago? Yeah, that is instant death for 2 players a lot of the time if you have Tainted Remedy on the board. The way it works is, let's say you have one player that has, 15 life, another player that has 36, and you decide to switch their lives. The one that was to gain the 30 or go up to 36 to gain what would essentially be 21 life actually loses 21 life and dies on the spot, and the other player goes down to 15. So Tainted Remedy and Axis of Mortality on the board for more than a couple of turns is again a death sentence. The Plague Drone is the same wording as Tainted Remedy. If an opponent would gain life, that player loses that much life instead. It just happens to be on a 3/3 flying body and cost 1 more mana. So yeah, okay, the deck is very, very salty and gonna be instant death all over the place. So we're going to need to defend it with Ghostly Prison, Sphere of Safety, and No Mercy. Ghostly Prison is a classic. It's gonna make all of your opponents pay 2 mana for each creature they want to attack you. Sphere of Safety is very, very similar, except for it counts the number of enchantments that you have and makes your opponents pay that much for each creature that they want to attack you. And No Mercy is a 4 mana enchantment that says whenever a creature deals damage to you, destroy it. So if they happen to ever get through on you, that creature will not survive the process of hitting you. And we're also using Norn's Annex. The notable thing about Norn's Annex is that it does require the opponent to have white mana or to pay 2 life. So for each creature that attacks you, they need to pay 1 white or 2 life, and they're gonna not really want to pay that 2 life a lot of the time if you're hitting them with a lot of the drain spells that are in the deck. And one last notable stacks piece is going to be Painful Quandary. It's going to have, whenever an opponent casts a spell, that player loses 5 life unless they discard a card. The reason for this enchantment is to really discourage your opponents from slinging spells your way. Alright, so some of this cardboard is fairly expensive, so we're gonna take a look at our budget options. We're gonna cut the Bloodletter of Aclazotz for Xanos A. Galvos. He transforms into Shinryu, Transcendent Rival. Now, it does take some work to get him to transform. After he transforms, he does choose a opponent, and then when that opponent dies, you win the game. We're gonna cut No Mercy for Paladin class. Paladin class gives a lot of different buffs, but the big one is at the end, which gives +1/+1 to attacking creature for each other attacking creature, and gives that creature double strikes. We're gonna cut the Bloodthirsty Conqueror for Defiant Bloodlord. These guys may have opposite abilities, but they're both pretty decent for the deck. And we're gonna have to cut Exquisite Blood. In its place, we're gonna put Audric Lunarch Marshal. We've got lots of keywords floating around amongst all of our creatures. Audric is gonna spread those keywords out amongst all of our creatures. And we're gonna cut Necropotence in favor of Dark Tutelage. Dark Tutelage reveals the top card of our library at the beginning of our upkeep, and we lose life equal to the converted mana cost or the mana value, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, it's just a good way to keep card advantage going on the cheap. And that's gonna be it for the deck. Please let me know in the comments what your friends thought about losing all of their life in one turn, and like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Until next time.
Just step into the portal and I will take that as a yes. It's time to choose.
Hey, yo, you, G-Man.
Well, it looks like we won't be working together. No regrets, Mr. Freeman.